All right. So we are here for our Monday morning mental toughness Monday. Yes. 177 mental toughness secrets of the world class. And we are on. So last week we talked about being coachable. What did your week look like this week from a coachability standpoint? Any thoughts, ideas, changes, notice things you noticed?
I'm going to say no. Just being honest.
So I wasn't on with the call last week, and I wasn't up on what was I think I was sick that week, but I mean I
Oh
have
yeah,
been.
and I never posted the recording.
Oh, that's okay. But I'm doing much better, by the way. I don't know if anyone was
Yay.
worried, but
I'm so glad you're feeling better.
thank you. Correct X in the sinuses for sinus stuff. Seriously. I
There
did it
you
like
go.
today.
Did you hear that,
Interesting.
Tim?
Right? It made such a huge difference. Anyway, it was interesting too because I went to a conference last weekend and I found out last minute that a friend was presenting and I had wanted to present. I had been, I don't know, just timing didn't work out. Like it did not work out for me to even do that. But when I found out that she was presenting, I was like all the jealousy, all the lame thoughts, everything, it just consumed me for like 15 minutes was all, maybe 20. And then I was like, okay, wait, we're gonna work through this because here she's one of my dear friends, and I like didn't want that going on between us. And so I ended up calling her and talking through stuff and at first I was like I didn't want her to be the one to help me through it. But it was perfect. She understood where I was coming from, just with compassion and just the
Right.
let's work through this. And so it was really awesome. I'm super, super proud of myself for being able to be in a space of being coachable and um, being willing to work through the stories. So
I
I'm
love
like,
it.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, that's what I want for the rest of my life is to just be open to dumping those lame things that hold us back and
Yes.
focus.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of another book of a group that I'm with. I'll go grab it in a second. But any other thoughts about coachability? Because this is a big deal, right? And last week I talked about my granddaughter who's 4, who told me I'm not coached, Ada. That's what she told me. And then she started losing the game. And it was so funny, but it was just such a like wake up call for me too, of just like how many times am I like, I am not coached, right? And then I am losing the game, right? Because I refuse to be coached. And scripturally, looking at the opportunities and the different things that we have from a spiritual or a scriptural basis, like you can see all the places where in the works of probably all forms of scripture that are brought forth from light, um everything is just like coaching us, right, to come toward more unity and more light, more truth, right, like moving towards truth in a unified way, and or even stepping away from whatever the rest of the world is doing and moving towards truth, and just that invitation, that constant invitation to come into truth. And how coachable are we on like all of this? It's like totally, yeah. Okay, I'm
I
gonna go grab my other book,
While
but
you're
I want
grabbing
to hear
that,
some more stuff.
yeah, while you're grabbing that, I want to
Go ahead.
share. So there was a quote I heard this last weekend too. The speaker said that um when we can fully love ourselves where we're at, then we are able to change. And then he said, but I want to add to that. And he said, um, I'm gonna look at it right. When so it's when we accept ourselves as we are, then we can change. But then he said, when we accept Christ just as we are, then we can truly change. And I love that. The change comes so much more easily as we bring Christ into that.
So when we accept ourselves, say that part again.
So when we fully he adapted it. When we accept Christ just as we are, then we can change.
Awesome.
Just as we are, though. We have to, and it's
Right. Not like as soon as we
right.
hit the right kind of
Right.
blah, blah. Okay.
Right. Like,
Very good.
okay, wow, I can see I want to change or improve.
This
The
is the
science
book
of the mind.
that I've been reading. I'm not very far into it.
That is big.
We've been reading it for months as a group. I have a coaching group that meets every Saturday morning. And I just want you to know that this much of it is like the forward or whatever. And this is the book. Anyway,
Wow.
it's a giant book, but it's called The Science of the Mind. It's by Ernest Holmes. And this is on this one is number 95. And we've been going through all these pieces of like how the mind works and the oneness of the universe and just all of these different things. But this one just hit me so hard. And when he was talking about making a demonstration is when you demonstrate the your faith, basically, your belief in true principles, and you're able to create or manifest or whatever the thing, the experience, the opportunity, the conditions that it is that you are looking for in your life or in the world. And so then he says, so this is about demonstration. He says, as far as making a demonstration is concerned, when we get the correct consciousness, it's the easiest thing in the world. But we cannot demonstrate beyond our ability to mentally embody an idea. So think about this from like a visualization. Like if you can visualize something, but you can't feel it in your body, or you feel those feelings of like, that's never going to happen for me or whatever, this is what he's talking about. You cannot demonstrate beyond our ability to mentally embody an idea. The argument is between our experience, what the world believes, and what we are convinced is the truth. It should be understood that we can demonstrate in spite of our own selves, right? So this is like the place of like when we accept Christ, where we are, where we already are, in spite of our own selves, in spite of all weakness, in spite of every fear, in spite of all that is in us, because such is the power of the truth. If we waited to be good before demonstrating, the wheel might turn a million times, but law is neither good nor bad. Law is, and it responds. So think about gravity, right? Gravity's not good. Gravity's not bad. There are definitely some good things about it. It creates a lot of order that would otherwise be really hard to create, right? But it's not a good or a bad thing. It just is, and it responds to whatever we're doing. The possibility of demonstrating does not depend upon environment, conditions, location, personality, or opportunity. It depends upon ourselves and nothing else. The universe will never deny man anything unless we conceive that it's possible for man to think of something that it is impossible for the universe to produce. Everyone who asks receives according to his belief. And I love this because like it really, I mean, unbelief is the sin. It's the sin, right? Is the unbelief, the that no, that's not possible, that's impossible. And how many things do we think this about? Even when we've seen so many great things, we still limit our minds of what is possible and what's not possible. And we're right. We're right, because we're going to receive according to the thing that we believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was an awesome follow-up on Coachable. Any other thoughts before we flip to our new one for today? You're muted, Mom. Oh, there you go. Oh, now you're, oh, what?
I wanted to add Oh, I want a picture of that page you just read.
Okay. I'll send it to the group.
Thank you for
That
sharing that.
that's similar to Think and Grow Rich. Sorry, I had a guy on trouble on the tractor here, so I missed part of it, but that's what it reminds me of is Think and Grow Rich, which I'm trying to get through.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is just like, flipping that switch in your mind. And all of I don't know who was first in the thinking. I know that they're all they're related to each other, and they all built on each other, because you can go back into the early 19th century and even into the 1800s, and you have all of these pieces of people who were understanding this stuff, and even before that, people obviously understood it, or there would have been no one to teach it, right, for people to be able to start to believe that and look at it. But it's very, very, very powerful, the things that we believe. And Genevieve Barrand is another one who was before, I believe she was before Napoleon Hill, and she learned from, I forgot his name. But anyway, there's just like, these principles are true and they're timeless, and it's easy for us to forget them for various reasons. So, okay, number 31 is where we are. And champions are mentally engaged in the creative process. Does somebody else want to read? Do you have your book today?
I couldn't find mine. I'm sorry, or I would.
Okay. If you're muted, I mean, you're muted, Dean and Kathy, but if you're wanting to read, I'd love to have you do it. Just to put another voice on here.
Okay, champions are mentally engaged in the creative process. While average people are satisfied with the status quo, world-class performers are always searching for new ideas and new ways to interpret old ideas. They do this by tapping into the right hemisphere of their brain, the more creative side. Champions believe there is always a better, easier, faster way to accomplish anything, and being creative is the way to discover it. One of the methods they use is to stoke their creative flow is to learn, study, and be interested in a variety of different things. The discovery of a truth in an unrelated subject could easily be transferred to a current problem. There is a level of relativity in relationship to the order of all things, and the great ones know it. Champions discover these truths because they pay attention, not because they're smarter than anyone else. The masses are not mentally engaged. Their billion-dollar thought processing system is used for activities like watching television and figuring out how to travel the road of least resistance. Meanwhile, champions are being mentally reborn daily as a result of making new distinctions, interpretations, and discoveries. And then they use these ideas to solve their problems. Inspiring.
Right? What does that make you think of?
Fatigue makes cowards of us all, following the path of least resistance. It's quite attractive sometimes.
But it's quite disgusting sometimes too.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And also, whoops, I'm like trying to do this. Sometimes there's I mean, because of the stuff that we've faced in our physical bodies this year, a lot of us have had sickness and different things like that. But I think that sometimes resisting what we are viewing as the path of least resistance, which would be resting, right? Sometimes resting is not the path of least resistance because we're feeling really resistant to doing it. So, I mean, it's another place. And I agree 100%. I mean, fatigue does make cowards of us all, because we're just like, yeah, never mind. I'm doing that tomorrow. But also rest is a true principle. So like gravity, right? Gravity can be used for good, or it can be used, it can work against you. It can work for you, it can work against you. And I think it's a new skill. If we haven't dealt with a lot of health conditions throughout our lives, then it's a new skill to learn how to manage that in a way that doesn't, I mean, there's a balance to it, right? So, and I think this is true of everything, that there's a balance to it.
I'm finding that like this ability to push through the fatigue or to fall into it, I guess, to rest, whatever, is really looking into it with the question of, is this best for me? Because sometimes the fatigue is there from a mental perspective and an
Yes.
emotional perspective. And if we don't work through that, it's gonna always be there. And so we need to be able to pull that out, because that will stop our creativity if we don't get rid of that.
Yes. Yes. And so there's skills on both sides, right? Being able to push through the fatigue and also being able to know when the fatigue is actually giving you a message that's like, no, but we really need rest.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I love that. Super powerful. Okay, some other things that were in here. I love this because they use it. One of the methods they use to stoke their creative flow is to learn, study, and be interested in a variety of different things. So this is fun because you see true principles in so many places, in so many things that you read. I know sometimes, it can be tempting to just read self-help books all the time so that we can, um, solve a problem or whatever. And that's great to have that information, but you would be amazed at how many self-help principles are embodied in great works of fantasy. C.S. Lewis, J.R. Tolkien, Brandon Sanderson, all of them have, and many more, have these wonderful, and your mind is at rest because you're in a story, but you're picking up on these key things. And I think this is true of the scriptures as well. And this is how Jesus taught, always in stories. And there were pieces that people could pick up, or pieces that they were just like, huh, that's a nice story. Um, anyway, I love this from the variety of different interests and the things that you learn from the variety of different interests that you have. So what are some of your interests that you've learned true principles from? Some of the things that you enjoy doing, maybe even they are your hobbies that you've learned true principles from.
Gardening.
Gardening, there's so many true principles in gardening, right? Like if you don't put the seeds in the ground, nothing will happen.
If you don't water the seeds, nothing will happen.
If you
Yeah.
don't water the seeds, that doesn't work. If you don't nourish, right?
Or if you don't stay up on the weeds, if you don't nourish your testimony.
Yeah. Yeah, the weeds can take over, especially if it's morning glory. That will take anything down. And also from a distance, it looks like everything's fine.
Yeah.
Kathy, you had something else. I saw you trying to, but
I'm so impressed with the power of the seeds, and the development is thousands of millions of times larger than that tiny seed. Look at a carrot, and look at a
I know.
carrot seed.
I know,
And you,
right? Carrot seeds are
oh
so
my
tiny.
word, this grew so big for its size when it started.
That's amazing. Carrot seeds. We should plant some.
I feel like I've learned a lot through health and nutrition and wellness, like that need. It's amazing to me. Like I'm like seriously fascinated every time I see how something I'm feeling emotionally is affecting me physically
Yeah.
too. Like how hand in hand, and how like what we think and feel affects all the parts of our world, not just the physically, not just emotionally, but and not just with my family. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Not just with me, but it'll go into my feelings around my family, around my friends, and around my business. Like, holy cow! Like that. Seriously, that just is just fascinating to me how it just bleeds into everywhere. Or
Yes. And so that's awesome because just like the learnings, the principles that you've learned from studying and from practicing.
yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I was in church yesterday. I'm not an artist. Well, I can't claim any kind of really artistic talent, and you're not gonna be impressed with this at all. But I was so touched by the picture in front of me of the little girl with her ponytail sitting next to her grandpa and her little cute crossed um legs underneath. This little girl is probably, I think she's 8 years old, and her grandmother died when she was 5, and her mother and father are battling drug addiction. So her grandfather, who is now a widower, is raising her,
Mm.
right? And it was just such a touching picture to see them sitting there in front of me on the pew, and it just really really touched me, and I wanted to draw it, which I did not do a really very good job. But as I was doing it, I was like, just look at the lines, just look at the lines, just try to see how the curve goes, what's the shape of the thing, and stop trying to make it into the thing, and just like look at the lines. And it was really interesting experience to try. And I felt like, maybe if I kept trying, I would actually get good at it, like just like trying to follow the lines and looking at that. So anyway, there's a lot of ways that we can be creative and that we get the opportunity to be creative. And there's a lot of ways and places where we can learn true principles. And then we can bring those truths and those pieces into our business and create something something even better. And we're doing this right now with our the things that we've been learning a lot of things over the last few years of bringing pieces together and looking at things. And this brings us back again to the vision that we have, that I have, that I think you have also, that that we want to create. And what we're creating is an opportunity for people, for women especially, to be able to come into a place where it's so simple and it's so easy to create a reel or to create a post and to create some of this interest. Maybe there's a little bit of things that we're going to do to like push it with financial pieces, but just being able to bring these pieces together and looking around and noticing how things are working in other businesses, and being like, look, all the pieces are in place for us to have a passive style income that doesn't really take a ton of work, that we can do in 5 hours a week. That we can sit and focused in a focused way, bring those pieces together and take that creativity and bring this beautiful picture of the life that we want into reality and into our own lives, and bring this beautiful picture, this beautiful vision forward for many other women who are also looking for that time freedom and the ability to spend the time with their children and be able to still have money coming in and not have to, just be gone all the time and give all of that up in that trade of dollars for hours. And so we can see this, and we can see this vision because we see that people are doing it in other industries, or not even, well, in other industries, but it's all retail, it's all sales, right? Like it's all sales, because ultimately that's the thing that makes every business work, is having a product that people want to purchase and having people purchase it from you. And that creates the beauty of it all. So
It's interesting that you brought that up. We went to Boise this weekend, and it's pretty much a 3-hour drive plus. And I wrote the whole time all of the assets that we have in our business right now, Ginger and Partners of Liquid Light and all the things that are available. And then I gave Wendy a copy of it when we got there. It was a page and a half, and I don't think it's complete.
wow, I'd like to see that too,
Me
because I do
too.
sometimes feel like we've got all the puzzle pieces scattered all over.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's kind of what I thought. I thought I need to just gather that and see what's available to myself, and share that.
Yes. Yes. No, I love that. Thank you.
We need
Okay,
our own little business cabinet to stack this stuff.
say it again.
We need our own little business cabinet to stack these things in so we can find them.
Yeah. I
Right.
love that.
Okay, the action step for today is, let's read the quote. The creative person wants to know about all kinds of things: ancient history, 19th century mathematics, current manufacturing techniques, flower arranging, and hog futures, because he never knows when these ideas might come together to form a new idea. Carl Alley, founder of Alley and Gargano Advertising. And then the action step for today: rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 7, 7 being the most creative, and be honest. How creative are you? And then the world-class resource, the best book I've read on creativity is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. This book will help unlock the genius inside of you. The best speaker I've ever heard on the subject is Greg Fraley of Chicago. You can learn more about Greg at gregfraley.com. So The Artist's Way is a book that I have on Audible. I've read it a few times. I love it. And actually, one of the courses that I'm taking right now to learn more AI image creation and advertising, like the whole thing, is the woman who did it. There's like a whole section in the community about The Artist's Way, and she said this entire program, which she's now making millions of dollars selling, was born out of The Artist's Way, of just like relearning to connect with yourself and your inner artist that you've basically shut down because that was unreasonable. So here we go. Right.
Sweet. Thank you, Brenda. I just added that to my Audible.
Awesome.
That's inspiring that came up today.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, my clock is telling me, beautiful song, that time is up. So thank you for being here. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll just have a quick meeting after, as soon as I find the recording.
Hey, Mary, I'm currently battling sinus myself, so